straight audience. So the things I say about being gay are things that if I said them to a gay audience, you'd be like, yeah, we know. I mean, but there's things that you have to kind of say to the straight audiences like, you're going to be okay, okay? This doesn't wipe off. You're not going to catch it. It's okay. Like, just pretend like I'm your aunt, the softball playing aunt at your family reunion. You know what I mean? Like, you have to ease them into it. Where you can't do that with a gay crowd. There's no point to come out.
Yeah.
They figure if you're in front of them and you have short hair, you're a fucking dyke. They got it. There's no need to bridge the gap for them, right? So I feel like a lot of times I have to do a different show for a gay audience than I do for a straight audience, and the adjustment I make is to be less gay. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like, the adjustment I make is to not have to say all of the things about gay and not really have to use that filter as how I come across because I'm gay.
Yeah.
I can just launch into my relationship is like this and my life is like this, and so in that way, I love performing for gay audiences so much more because I don't have to be the gay girl in the room. I can just be me and kind of even share more. Whereas when I'm playing a room that's very straight, eventually it's going to come out that
I like girls.
I like girls. and it's never, I've never had it, not never, I've very rarely had it taken poorly, right? I've played a lot of redneck rooms and I feel like
that's right.
They've taken the gay thing as well as one can expect. But also, there's that moment of like tension where you're like, oh, fuck, is this going to be okay? Or do I need an escort to the hotel? Like, so I've been very fortunate. I think I think I have a very sweet, cherubic-like face that lets me get away with saying some really terrible things.
Yeah.
So people like me and they let me kind of get away with it. And I think there's no point in my show. There's some comedians that kind of like creating that tension of like, you don't know if they're serious or not. And I think when I'm joking. Like I'm clearly not. I take things to such extremes that you're like, oh, she's kidding. For God's sake, don't get upset about that. That's a joke.
Also, I felt like everything your entire set was relatable. From like the sweet potatoes to like, was that the Family Feud moment? Like it was hysterical. Everything was like relatable. There was nothing that I could lose focus on. So that was pretty cool.
Thank you. I do a lot of shows, and so I feel like I'm very lucky to have like a lot of material to pull from. So when I do shows and I am in front of groups, if I really feel like I can really feel where they want me to go and which direction they want it to head and those. So that way, not every show is alike, but not every show is completely different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good, you guys, that was a really good crowd. I mean, you were really sharp. You were really on top of things. Sometimes I could have done the same set in a room where they just were not having it. You know what I mean? Like there's just I feel like I can adjust and get where they are very quickly. But sometimes you say one or two things and you're like, oh, I can't go down this road. This is going to be rocky.
Don't you feel like that's like the hardest, like, well, I work in a school, so for me it's like standing in front of a class, and I just feel like what you just said is so true, because it's like discovering your audience. You kind of have to work with them, and I feel like that's the weirdest part of like these jobs of like being in front of large groups.
Testing the waters.
Like you feed off of their energy.
Absolutely. Because I mean, and it never fails that you'll say something that has 1,000% of the time gotten a laugh. You've never said it and it didn't get a laugh, and it doesn't get a laugh, and you're like, fuck. I've got to reevaluate this whole thing. I need to just start throwing spaghetti against the wall and see what fucking sticks and head down that road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you just You just never know, and you've got to try a lot of, and you've got to be able to be confident enough to know that you're gonna find a road. You just have to work for it. There's some crowds that just don't want you to do your material. They want you to fuck with them.
Right.
They don't want you to do material. They want to be fucked with. And you can feel it. It's usually a late night crowd. They're talky. They're chatty. They're there celebrating with like 18 of their closest friends, and it's you can tell when it's going to go that way too. And there's nothing you can do about it. You've almost just got to let the ride go where the ride is going.
And I've been to a lot of those late night shows, and I've seen comedians go down the road where they're like, well, fuck you, and F this and F the other. Like, I've been to this show, and I've been on live, blah, blah, blah. And, and I've have this, like, why do you have to prove yourself to these drunken people that clearly don't care? Just move on.
Yeah. And they don't get it either. They almost act like it's the crowd. Like I always hated that when I was when I first left Louisiana to do comedy kind of on a national basis. I first went to San Francisco. And there was this guy, and he was incredibly talented, super funny, but every time he saw a crowd, he came up with a reason why they weren't his crowd. You know what I mean? Like, these guys these are really right-wing guys. I don't know if I can do it. And he would like, these aren't my people. These aren't my people. He would say that like every time. And then he would still go out there and crush. But it was like, why are you trying to, like, it was almost like this safety net of, if, in case he didn't do well, he could be like, well, they weren't my crowd. You know what I mean? I knew that from the beginning. Right. But because he said it every time, it was like, dude, now it's just clearly something you need to say so that, your paranoia doesn't kick in. But it's not, you just don't know what you're going to get. It's like teaching a class exactly. I've substitute taught classes. That's you step in front of a room of sixth graders was one of the fucking scariest things I've ever done in my life. In my life. I mean, I had those children, and I was substitute teaching like a typing class. And these little fuckers were up and down, out of their seats, talking. I'm like, sit down and do the damn lesson. I'm like, let me tell you something. A lot of these other classes you're taking, I can see why you talk through them. That math shit you're never going to use. But this is typing. You're going to use this every damn day. Sit down and learn how to fucking do it. And they didn't really ask me to substitute teach again after that. But, I mean, I just got very frustrated with the children. Like, this is clearly one of the few things you will actually use outside of your middle school education. So just do it. Stop with your little goofy note passing, laughing. Just shut up and do this. Type this shit out. Like I've never been so frustrated in my fucking life. You know what I mean? But that was the audience I had that day. So that was what I had to do.
Yeah, I've seen my Jen do. I could probably do her whole set from the top of my head because I've seen her perform it so many times, and there's been like there could be a certain crowd or a different place that we go to, and I get the joke in a different way, and it's like a complete different joke, like a complete new joke to me. So it's cool to see how you adapt and how people adapt in different crowds, and how jokes work with different crowds.
You hear her act. Do you go to shows for her a lot?
Yeah, like 99% of the time I'm there. I'm usually chauffeuring.
Yeah, that's very sweet that you even still think she's funny. That's when I know my relationship is over, is when they stop coming to my show. Because they're just like, are you gonna, okay, no, I know all your jokes. I'm just gonna stay home. That's true. Even there's times when we're on stage and we say something and we get it in a new way, and I'm like, oh, I should have been saying it like that the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you didn't figure it out till you figured it out. One of the jokes I have in my act, the only reason I even have the tag for it is because a guy came up to me in a fishing shirt in the middle of Mandeville, Louisiana, He came up to me after a show and he goes, "Oh man, when you were doing that part about the camping story, I thought you were going to link it back up and say this." And I went, "Oh my fucking God.
That's a great idea.
Well, that's what I'm going to do now. That's exactly what's going to happen now. I can't believe I didn't see that." And he gave me a tag for the whole fucking show. And I just didn't see it. I was too close to it to even see it. And this fucking fisherman gave it to me. I said, "Dude, when you see it on Showtime, don't even fucking act surprised. I will not give you credit." I'm taking this and acting like I thought of it. But I didn't.
So
I didn't
funny.
see it at all. And it was just a guy saying, "Oh my God, I thought you were going to bring it back to this." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's genius. Why am I not doing that? It's right there."
Sometimes it
didn't see
takes
it,
a different set of eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I've said, because I don't always say it in the same order. So if I were the way he saw it, the reason he thought I was coming back to it was because I had said that other part first. But I don't always do it in that order. So if I had done that part in a different place, maybe he wouldn't have even seen it that way.
Yeah.
So it just blows my mind, and I'm like, oh, that's good. But that's something you don't learn till you've done it so many fucking times. At one time, you just do it different just to fucking switch it up, and it's the way it works,
So, Jen, other than acting, substituting, sixth graders, and comedy, what else do you do?
I am writing. I have a screenplay that I am on a rewrite number 5.
Okay.
Tweaking it and making it good and such. It's a little rom-com about me and the last girl I went out with.
Okay.
Who was also an actress, and so it was really cute because we were going to write this movie and then do this movie together, and then we broke up, and now I'm like, ugh. And then Rosario Dawson came out of the closet, and I was like, oh, maybe Rosario Dawson can play her. So, you never know. We can always hope. I'm secreting that out. I'm putting it out there.
She's beautiful.
So I'm writing. I'm doing a lot of coloring. That's very soothing to me to draw and color things.
I've always found it
markers and pens and color pencils and such.
Sorry, I don't get the coloring. Like, I get anxiety with the color pencils.
Well, then don't do it. But
no, I don't.
To me, I have a Wonder Woman coloring book, and like I put on my reading glasses so that it blows it up really big, and then I have a sharpener so I get each color pencil really sharp so that I really stay in the lines and I can do some shading and stuff with it. And I just love it. It's just it really can soothe me if I've got 1,000 things going on in my mind. And what'll happen is while I'm coloring, I'll think of things and I'll just keep a little pad right next to me and I'll write them down or be like, oh, don't forget to do this. Oh, don't forget to I remember all the things I need to remember while I'm coloring.
Oh, nice.
So I kind of write them down, but then I go back to the coloring and I'll think of something else and I'll write it down and go back to the coloring. So it really does help me. If it's not helping you, find something that is, girl, because the stress is only going to increase.
Fascinating. We were talking about that, how we have the chance and the opportunity to do the things that we say that we don't have enough time to do. And it's like a whole new process of self-discovery, because I've discovered that the thing that I thought I wanted to have more time to do, I don't care for. Like, I have no desire to do. And I actually discovered that I love my job and that I really appreciate my job. And I found like a new love.
But that's a great thing too. And I think that a lot of people are having that epiphany, right? Mm-hmm. Like I was on the road like, oh my God, please Jesus, can these gigs just end? I just want to go home and order food and lay around and sleep all the time and just be able to relax for like a month. Please, God. You know what I mean? And
6
kill
weeks
all
later.
These old white people. And then it's happening. So,
can you give me the lottery numbers?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, now I'm like, God, what I wouldn't give to be in a fucking smoke-filled bar, slinging jokes to rednecks who aren't listening to me. God, that would be so awesome. I wish I was doing that right now.
So, Jen,
but also, and here's what really kind of is going to suck is that we'll be able to go back outside I mean, not we can't go outside now, but you know what I mean. We'll be able to kind of, congregate in small groups or do have a bit more